So the emotional distress we're experiencing in the divorce bleeds over into our professional life, our
Absolutely.
outside relationships, and then the whole thing just becomes a big negative cycle. So
Yeah.
my role is to take all that.
Hi, everyone. Shaelene McInnis here with the Ontario Wellness Network, and I'm very happy to be interviewing today as my guest someone all the way from Texas, and it's a lot warmer down there than it is here in Ontario in January. So, but she's originally from Canada, and Alberta, so she knows what it's like to be up here in Canada. This is Mardi Winder-Adams. Again, she used to be from Alberta, now in Texas, and she works in the field of divorce, helping women, especially high achieving women, when they've decided to start the process of divorce. As usual, I will, of course, have all of her contact information, all of her social media contacts, so that you will be able to reach out to Mardi. And if there, for any reason you can't, you can always contact us at Books in Line, and we're happy to do the introduction as well. Welcome, Mardi. Thank you very much for joining us.
Shaelene, thank you so much for this opportunity. I've been listening to your other podcast episodes, and I just, it's such a wealth of knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had some incredible guests on. I've had guests where I'm just amazed at what I've been learning. It's incredible. I absolutely love doing this. So again, Mardi is a divorce coach for high achieving women. She has experience as a mediator, and I think that's always necessary. It's actually something I wish I did. That's something that I wish I did. And she hosts the podcast, The D Shift, Redefining Divorce and Beyond. So I am going to ask Mardi to tell us about what it is that she does specifically, because as you know, there's a number of divorce coaches and people who help people going through divorce, and we all specialize in different areas. So I'm going to ask Mardi to explain to all of us, to the listeners, what it is that she focuses on. Go ahead, Mardi.
Great. Well, again, thank you, Shaelene. And so what I do, I'm certified as a divorce transition coach. And what I do is I help women from the contemplative point
Mm-hmm.
through to actually winding up the divorce, getting the piece of paper, and then kind of, sometimes I work with clients for a month or two afterwards just to really make sure that they're up and on their feet and supporting them in making the transition from, a couple to a single, because there's a whole lot of new stuff that tends to come up.
Yeah.
But my role is really helping women who are used to doing planning, strategically approaching things. My goal is to turn the chaos and confusion of the divorce process into
Yeah.
a strategic plan that women aren't left feeling like they're just being carried along in the process, where
Yeah.
they actually have the ability to say, this is the way I want this to happen. They have the confidence to talk to their attorney, their financial planners, and their partner about what they want to see coming out of the divorce.
It's interesting you said carried away, because I've actually had women use those words. They're like, so I've made these decisions that, it's time for divorce, and I know that it is, and I'm trying to think about what to do with my kids and what to do with my husband, and it's like I'm on a wave and
Yeah.
I have no control, and the wave is going towards shore, but I have absolutely no control. So that's interesting that you said that, carried away. That just stuck with me that you said that. So now I know that you do a lot of work with high achieving women. Can you tell me what the difference would be? Because I have some ideas about it, but I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Well, first of all, I think all women are high achieving. So it's not necessarily
That's
that
true.
there's a distinction. But what I tend to the women I tend to work with are high profile, high visibility. They have roles where other people are depending on them. So they may be
Yes.
CEOs or entrepreneurs, or they may be incredibly busy moms dealing with, two or three children, or perhaps a special child with special needs. Or maybe they're that sandwich generation where they're looking after their kids and
Yeah.
their parents. So these are women that are under a lot of pressure, where they don't have the luxury of, being able to just kind of sit back and relax and think through their things while they, have a cup of coffee or go to the
Yeah.
spa for the weekend. These are women that really typically have a crunch on their time, have a lot of responsibilities, and
Mhm.
really have that drive to not let the divorce interfere with their life. And
Right.
unfortunately, as anybody who's gone through divorce, I know
Hmm.
I thought, oh, I'll just go through this and everything will be fine. That's not the way the world works, especially
No.
for women. We don't compartmentalize our lives very well. So the emotional distress we're experiencing in the divorce bleeds over into our professional life, our
Absolutely.
outside relationships, and then the whole thing just becomes a big negative cycle. So
Yeah.
my role is to take all that ickiness and look at, okay, how do we strategically plan for this? How
Yeah.
do how do we prepare? And how do you have these conversations with professionals and others in your life to make sure that the divorce looks like what you want it to look like?
Yep. Knowledge is power. I always say knowledge is power. Knowledge is empower. Knowledge is empowerment. The
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
knowledge you have, you're empowering yourself. And I like what you're saying about that because it's true. Whether we're stressed about anything in our lives, it does bleed over into every other part. You're exactly right. I'm like, oh, that's true. Yeah, we can't separate this from this, from this, from this.
Well, and I was seeing there's a couple of interesting studies, and when I'm going to do a study, I actually go back and take a look so I can quote it correctly, and I don't have that, so I'm giving this off the top of my head, but it's something around 40% of productivity drops during divorce. So even though you
Oh,
think you're doing really well at work, your productivity is actually dropping by about 40%. And the longer the divorce drags on, the more significant that is. Plus,
right.
there's time you've got to take off work. You've got to go to depositions, perhaps. You've got to have attorney meetings. You've
Mhm.
got to, perhaps you've got to go to case settlement meetings or mediations. All of these things start adding up, and
Right.
it really can take a chunk of your time. And like you said, it just ratchets up that stress level that you're living
Mhm.
under during the entire, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it takes to get the
Right.
process done.
Like a chunk of your actual physical time, but it also takes a chunk. I know if I'm speaking about myself, any kind of stress will take a chunk of your mental time. And I can see why productivity would go down because you become consumed with whatever the issue happens to be. That's a excellent point. Now I know you're coming out with a book, so I want to talk about that. But I'd like to first talk about mistakes. I'd like to talk about maybe 3 mistakes people make when they're starting divorce proceedings, and that's something I always like to ask people, like, "What would you suggest we do differently?" Anyone does
Okay.
differently.
Okay. Well, I think the biggest mistake that I see, and I've kind of already alluded to this, is people assuming um, that just hiring the attorney is all they need to do.
Mhm,
So an attorney is a great resource. I don't believe that you have any kind of assets, if you have kids, if you have any kind of savings, or if you have any kind of
mhm.
property or anything like that, really having an attorney at least review a mediated settlement to make sure that
Yes.
everything's in there and it's right and it's not
Mhm,
going to end up biting you at a
mhm.
later point in time. I think that's really important. But I see a lot of people that just hire an attorney,
Right.
and that's great. That's the legal part. But the financial picture, as you know, is
Mhm.
so critical
Yep.
because your taxes, and what a financial decision in the divorce, how that's going to impact you, not just
Yes.
today, but 5 years, 10 years, or when you actually go to withdraw your retirement. Like,
Right.
what's the tax implications for this?
Yeah.
Things like if you sell your house, and I know you're in Canada, I'm in the States, but do you take the capital gains hit as a couple where you get much more, or do you
Right.
wait and take it as a single and then you get less and you end up losing more money on the sale? So there's,
Same rules in Canada. Same
yeah,
rules. Yep,
all
yep.
those kind of things. So, and it's been a while since I've done it, worked with anybody in Canada. So I have to be careful going back because I was divorced in Canada. So that's mistake one. Mistake two kind of is, I think, goes along with that, but is relying on your friends, family, and coworkers for
Oh,
advice
Lord.
during your
I know.
divorce.
I can't even tell you how many people I've had come to me and go, "Well, I talked to my friend and they told me this is all I had to do." And I'm like, "But why didn't you speak to someone who's a tax expert
Right,
or
right.
something else?" Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the same thing, and your friends, family, and coworkers also includes the famous resource of Google, which is great. But I have actually worked with people in in one state who have used information from another state,
Oh,
particularly
right.
California, which has kind of very different laws on a lot of things around divorce. Um, and then gone into court, done their own paperwork, and assumed that they could use those kind of precedences, and it just doesn't work. I mean, that's just not going
No.
to happen, right? So those are the two, and I think the third one is start not planning for all the possible ways that your partner may react to the information that you are going through a divorce.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, especially as women, we think, okay, we're going to say this kindly, we're going to say this
Yeah.
gently, we're going to use
Hmm.
iMessages, but then we get this explosive reaction. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking even physical. I'm talking
No.
just, this
Yeah.
kind of like, just, I can't believe you're doing this to me. I can't believe you won't give me another chance.
Right.
And then I think we feel guilty. We feel like, well, maybe they are going to change. And we step back and say, okay,
Yeah.
let's give it another few months. And once we set that pattern, it's harder and harder to actually make the break because your partner is expecting you're going to repeat that pattern. So I
Right.
think those are three that I see. I mean, there's a bunch that I see, but I think those three come
Those,
up
yeah.
quite often.
I'm going to talk to those three. First of all, yeah, I agree with you. Hiring the right people, the lawyers, not just the only person. It might be a mediator. It might be, if you're selling your house, you need your own realtor. Each
Yeah.
person needs their own realtor. I did a whole podcast on that. That was an eye-opening one for me. Also, a counselor, whether it's for you, the kids, a grief counselor, because part of your life is ending the way you thought it was going to be, and you're starting something new. So, yeah, look for other people, other professions who can help. Um, and what you said, friends and family, everyone means well, but you
Yes.
need to really do what's best for you and possibly your kids. And really get professional advice. And I agree with you on the Google thing. The third thing that you said was because, and I've always pictured it like this, perhaps you've been considering divorce for a few months. So you're at this stage, but the person that you're with had no idea. So when you come to them and you're calm and you start to explain but they're at this stage, they're like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? Because you're already here because
Yeah.
you've been thinking about it. And they're back here going, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And the reaction it can be, what's going on? Why aren't we trying to make this work out? But it can be as extreme as, you're not leaving me. I will make sure you're on the streets. I've had people
Yeah.
tell their spouse that you and the kids will live on the streets because I will make sure you have nothing. I
Yeah.
have two clients where their husbands actually quit their well paying jobs because they said, we're not going to be paying child support in the amount that you want. So I'm going to quit my job. So you never know necessarily what's going to happen. So I agree, being ready for the reaction. I like that point of it. Um, Now, I'd like to discuss the book that you're coming out with because
Sure.
I have asked Mardi already to come back on to do another podcast with me when she comes out with her book, because I think she has many invaluable lessons to tell us. So I would like to know more about the book that you've written.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's called When I Do Turns to I'm Done:
Ooh.
Strategic Planning for Women Before, During, and After Divorce. So, what it really is it's not necessarily a read from cover to cover,
Mhm.
it's a chapter by chapter. If you're dealing with preparation for negotiation, you can grab that chapter and take a look. And it kind of gives an overview of it. And then it gives some practical steps or exercises to help you start to get into the right frame of mind. And I would like to say it's comprehensive, but quite frankly, everybody's case in divorce is unique. I mean, when you're
Yes.
going through a divorce, the beginning and the end is the same for everybody, right? Ask for the divorce, start the proceedings, and then eventually get
And
the
then it
divorce.
ends.
But
Yeah.
everything in the middle is completely unique.
Yep.
So, hopefully, it gives people some ideas, some strategies, and like a lot of areas I'm not an expert in, like the financial planning
Hmm.
and the tax work that you do. So
Right.
my goal, in that chapter is really to help women come up with a basic budget, because you're going to need that for the divorce anyhow. Your
Yep. Yep.
attorney's going to want to see that. Get that kind of information, and then recognize, okay, if you don't do the taxes, if you've never done the taxes,
Yep.
or if the taxes are complicated, let's face it, if you've got
Yes.
investments and different savings accounts and crypto wallets and all this kind of
Oh,
stuff, it
yeah.
can be
Yeah.
incredibly complicated. So who do you consult with? Do you
Yeah.
want to use the same tax accountant you both have been using? Because that may
Right.
be a point of leakage of
conflict. Yeah,
information.
yeah,
So
I
where,
agree.
do you need to get your own professional,
Yep.
and how do you hire that professional? So it's kind of it's a primer on step by step, what do you need to do
Right.
in each one of those areas. So and it goes from how do you have the conversation all the way through to, what do you need to look at with regards to the mediation negotiation? And then what do you need to get started as a single woman moving from married to
Forward.
single? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds excellent. I will be the first person to buy the book unless someone's already signed up for it. I will be
Thank
the
you.
first one. Oh no, just put me down for it. Just send you my credit card
Well,
information.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh no, that sounds like exactly what so many people that I do work with, they need exactly that information because you don't know what you don't know. There's lots of
Exactly.
things that I don't know. I
Right.
would go to an investment advisor. This is not my area of specialty. I would go to an investment advisor. I know taxes and financial stuff. I don't know about counseling or child counseling or I've been reading about meditation and trying to find calm and self and being self-centered, like more not self-centered, that sounds so
Grounded.
wrong, but grounded.
Grounded.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a much better word. Thank you. So yeah, I will be the first person to buy the book. Just write my name down.
Well, thank
And
you.
I would like to thank Marty for being a guest on my podcast. So happy she was here. I will be featuring her again. Now we're going to have all the contact information again included. If you would like to purchase one of her books, or even if you just would like to have a conversation with her, contact her, let her know, and I'm sure that she would be of help to so many people who could use her invaluable advice. Marty, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Shaelene. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.